What's going on, guys? I'm Brad. This is Despite Fitness. Today is March 24th. We're in the garage. I got my friend Nat. She's around being a bum, not training, dragging heels, not doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing in the garage, which is training.
I trained yesterday. You didn't.
I did train yesterday.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
When?
I squatted.
When?
I squatted at the gym.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. See?
It's the
Bum.
day before yesterday. You didn't.
Bum.
Look who's talking.
All right, so today we're going to be in the garage just because, like, man, I'll tell you what, today I was super OBE, and that is overcome by events. So yeah, today just super got away from me. And when the dust settled and the air cleared a little bit, it's like after 7 o'clock, and I don't feel like driving all the way to the gym, which is like a half hour's drive, and then, you know, blah, 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 right? So we're going to do the deal in here. Today for me is a speed bench day. What is it for you?
The deads.
She's doing some deads, so she'll have to figure out where she's going to do that at, because it's not in here.
Shut up.
Maybe a little bit of the remedial video for you guys. So I'm sorry to wait a minute and 30 seconds in before I tell you this. This might be kind of a basic type of a video, and at least at the outset, what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate accommodating resistance in the form of bands. So you're going to see that. I'll talk a little bit about that and just set up. And then I'm also going to talk about speed work and how I set myself up for speed work and how you may also try to kind of emulate that. Because I will bet that most of you don't have the thing that I have, and you'll see that in a minute. I'm not trying to be whatever, but you'll see. But yeah, if you don't have a way to be able to measure your bar speed, there are still things that you can do. So yeah, so if you're interested in any of that stuff, band tension, setup, and then, you know, doing speed work or dynamic effort, as it were, if you were doing more of a conjugate kind of title, hopefully you'll stick around and check out this video and watch her be bum. Look at her, she's already laying down on the job. This is bullshit.
What are you talking about?
See, this is what I gotta deal with. This is the lack of motivation that surrounds me and is pervasive in this environment.
Who's talking? I brought you to the gym a few times.
At least I'm not laying down. Anyhow, so here we go. We're gonna be training. I'm gonna be training. She's gonna be sleeping in the corner, and it's gonna be fun. All right, stay tuned. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And if I've made you smile, stick around for the rest of it. Great success. All right, cool. So to kind of get right to the point, I'm gonna talk about a couple of things that go into making my dynamic day a little bit more successful. So the first of which is this device here, which is kind of what I was referring to when I said many of you won't have this. And this is what's known as a VBT, or a velocity-based trainer. This one is the open barbell from Squats and Science. So you can check out what they have. The company that makes it, again, is Squats and Science. Their latest iteration of this device is, I think, called Rep. But the end state is it's got this pull chain that I can attach to the bar via magnet, if you take a look there. So, right, that attaches to the bar, and it can roll as the bar tends to roll around, so that's pretty cool. And then as I, you know, go through the eccentric and concentric portions of the lift, you know, the cable comes out, and when this is switched on, it has a little device in there that is able to measure my velocity. In other words, it translates it to meters per second of movement, right? So when I'm doing my speed work, I try to stay within a range that's 1 meter per second of movement, which is pretty explosive. If you don't have a way to be able to effectively measure your bar velocity, you basically just want to treat your speed work as though it's a punch. So the same kind of velocity that you would have in throwing a punch, not a press, but a punch. So if you treat your speed work like a punch versus a press, then you'll probably be in that ballpark of a meter per second, or maybe even faster. The idea behind the dynamic work is not to be super slow, right? You want to be explosive. And probably the critical error that most people make with their dynamic effort or speed work is they go too heavy. So you really do want to lighten up the load and sacrifice weight for speed. So speed is what we want, right? So that's the first part. Then the second part in getting into the bit about the accommodating resistance. I have already done the video where I talked about accommodating resistance in the form of chain. The other variety of accommodating the resistance that most people refer to is band tension, right? So obviously, the more I stretch the band out, the more resistance I'm going to have. So ideally, I want to set up the band tension so that it's equal, so bilaterally symmetrical. In other words, the same amount of tension on both sides. So however I set up the band on one side, I want to make sure that I emulate the exact same on the other, so that the band tension is roughly the same. This is, I think, maybe a little bit harder to perfect, because if you have to do something like put a knot in it, or you do a double choke or anything like that, like real small nuances in the band tension can have a pretty big effect on the output of overall tension. So if you have any complexities like chokes or ties in the band, it can make it very difficult to ensure that both sides are the same. So just understand that going into band tension. Now, what I try to aim for when I'm doing my dynamic work is a set amount of band tension. I'm very rarely ever concerned with exactly how much band tension I have, but rather I just want to add in, some measure of band tension. And then once I have band tension on there that I feel is sufficient for what I want in that particular day, and again, for me, it tends to change kind of day by day. I don't think I've really had too many days where the setup for my band tension was exactly the same. But once I have the band tension set up that I want for that particular day, then I will go through some reps and measure my velocity just to make sure that I'm exceeding a meter per second. And then what I'll do is I'll add in straight bar weight to bring myself down to be moving at about a meter per second. And so once I've gotten myself kind of dialed in where my overall movement is about a meter per second with the band tension and then the added straight weight, then I'll go through and I'll execute all of my working sets. So that is how I go about setting up for my dynamic effort or speed work day on my bench. And again, the setup for the deadlift, or I'm sorry, the setup for the squat rather would be exactly the same essentially, but just, more stretched out because I'm standing up versus laying down, as it would make sense. Yeah, I think, that's probably a good point to end this video and have it be its own separate thing. And then I'll do another video, which is going to be the workout that I'm about to do, where I talk more about what I'm doing, and then I'll demonstrate my exact setup so you guys can see that. So stay tuned for another video to follow, reference exactly how I go about setting up for today's dynamic effort, and so you can kind of see what I end up doing and how I end up doing it. But hopefully that answers some questions about using the accommodating resistance of bands in your speed work and what it is you're aiming for when you're doing speed work. And then again, if it wasn't super crystal clear about the setup, exactly how you set up these bands, I think, is largely immaterial, as long as you're getting a resistance that is not too much for you to be able to cope with, as long as it's bilaterally symmetrical in terms of the same amount of resistance on either side, making sure that your angle of resistance is the same. So in other words, you wouldn't want to have, one band set up kind of over here and then another band set up over here, where, it would force the bar to be off balance. So as long as there's balance and symmetry in your positioning and in your tension, that's probably a good place to be. And then the exact nuances of how you specifically set up your bands is going to change to what you have available to you. You may have something like band pegs, or you may just have some plates or some dumbbells or whatever that you have to loop and cinch, and so you have to be creative with your setup at times depending on what you have available to you. So I won't go into the exact setup, because I think everyone's going to have a slightly different setup based on whatever your accommodations are. So I hope that that's clear. Any questions, leave in the chat box below. Anyway, that's it, guys. Remember, no matter what it is you think you can't do, get in and do some conjugate stuff with your dynamic effort days and play with that accommodating resistance. It's never going to happen if you don't get in and train despite. You're either going to find an excuse, you're going to find a way. And I hope that you guys continue to find the way. Need your helps with the subs. Want to get to 10K? So yeah, appreciate you guys. That's it. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Bye.